Hi, welcome back to my channel La Fraise. I'm Noémie, I'm a student in costume making, and if you have a lot of jersey scraps, this project might be exactly the right one for you. These are jersey knickers that you can make without a sewing pattern, and this is a great way to practice working with knits, working with slightly stretchy fabric and with elastic. Let's start sewing. My neighbors are currently doing garden work, so I hope that you can't hear them too much. I apologize if there's a bit of noise around. For this tutorial, I will be using fold over elastic. So that's an elastic that opens up like this. That looks a little bit like that. If you prefer using Picot, I will quickly show how to use Picot at the end of the tutorial. So what you should have to be able to follow this, you should have the front of your knickers, the front, the back, your gusset, an elastic for your waistline, and the elastic for your leg opening. So what I am using here is my favorite bikini bottom pattern. So this is a Sandpiper swimsuit from Helen's Closet. You can use any knicker patterns that you like. If you are using a pattern, they are going to give you instructions for the length of the elastic. If you don't have a pattern, go to the end to see how you can draft your own. And even if your pattern tells you the length of elastic you should use, I really recommend trying them on yourself before, because sometimes I find that the leg opening elastics can be a little bit tight, especially if your elastic is a bit stiff, and then it kind of cuts your bum cheek in two, and I don't think that's a very good look. So just try on the elastic and make sure they are comfortable before you chop them and commit to them. So first thing, we are going to put our stitch length at 2.5 and 2.5 zigzag. That's my favorite size. Obviously you can do whatever you want. I would suggest for the construction staying between 1.5 and 2.5. Here and here stay between 2 and 3. I have just changed to a matching thread to my fabric, and also I have changed to a jersey needle. So I am ready to sew. We're going to put right side against right side, and we're going to start by sewing the two sides of a pair of knickers. So use the seam allowance either in your pattern or the one you've added if you've drafted it yourself. Don't forget to backstitch at the start and at the end of your seam. If you are using an overlocker / serger, this is the moment where you can actually sew directly with your overlocker. You can totally skip the sewing machine and do the two first steps here straight with the overlocker. Okay, your sides are sewn. My thread is really matching, so you can't really see it, but it's there. Your sides are sewn. Here you have 4 options. 1, you sewed with your overlocker, and so your edge is already finished, so you don't need to do anything. Hooray. 2, you decide to leave this as is. This is jersey, so this is not going to fray, so you could totally leave it there and call it a day. Hooray. 3, you want to finish this edge, and to finish the edge, what I would suggest is move between 3 and 4, anywhere you like the look of, to finish this raw edge here. What I'm personally going to do is push the seam allowance here towards the back and top stitch it like this. The reason is I have super duper sensitive skin and I don't want anything flapping here. So this way I'm top stitching the seam down here, and that allows me to have nothing bothering my skin. So choose your favorite option, and we're meeting on the other side. So now your side seams might look a little bit like this, or however you decided to finish yours. Now you're going to take your gusset, and with your gusset you have 4 options. 1, overlock the top edge here. 2, if you don't have an overlocker, zigzag the top edge here. 3, don't do anything, because it's jersey and you can actually get away with not doing anything. So the lazy option, that's totally fine. Or 4, you can top stitch it like I'm going to do if you are obsessed with nothing sticking out. This one is really a Noémie thing and not a ready to wear thing at all. You will never find something top stitch it at the front, because it does give you a stitch line really on the front of your crotch, and if you want to look sexy in your underwear, not a great look. Here I have an extremely matching thread. I don't think it's really going to be visible, and I prefer having this not flapping around. But so what I would suggest if you want something more traditional and less with my little quirks is just finish it now or don't. So now we're going to take our underwear. My gosh, here we are. We're going to flip it inside out. We're going to match the bottom seam like this. And we are going to add on the bottom, so you look at the bum of your underwear, the bottom, so the edge you have not finished, the bottom of your gusset, right side against the wrong side of the bottom of your underwear, like this. If you are a beginner, what you could do is first baste together the front and back, and then afterwards come and add the gusset. That would be a little bit simpler, but it's not so complicated to do the 3 seams at once. Check with me that you have everything in the right order. You have the bottom seam of your gusset and the wrong side is facing you. You have the bum of your knickers wrong side facing you. And if you turn it like this, you can see the wrong side of your front. So it's right side against right side and the right side facing here. Once you have checked that all of this is good, you sew here. So now that it's sewn, I'm going to turn it the right way around. What I'm going to do when I align the gusset, you can see those little corners and you can give that a little chop. What I'm going to do now is align the gusset inside my underwear and I'm going to baste here. So what you're going to do, you can use a zigzag, just don't use something too wide because ideally once the elastic is on, you don't want to see the basting line sticking out, so nothing wider than this. But what I'm going to do is a zigzag where one goes on and one goes off. And personally, what I like to do is also go and top stitch this. Again, you really don't have to. That's really my personal preference because don't forget, this will give you a seam line that's going to be visible from the front. But at least that's for everyone, baste those 2 lines. It's going to make the elastic much easier to deal with afterwards. All done. Now that already starts to look a little bit like underwear, doesn't it? Ta-da! Yeah, we can see where it's going. So now you're going to grab your first elastic. I suggest starting with the waist. What we're going to do is open it up, overlap the 2 sides a little bit like this, and I'm going to sew over this so that they are attached together. So first check that you are not twisting your elastic when you join it as a loop. That's always annoying and leads to a bit of unpicking. If you want to be fancy, what you could do now is actually match your thread to your elastic. That will look a lot nicer. I think I personally just want to finish. Or do I want to match the thread? Come on, let's be fancy. Little bonus tip, I actually line up the line of stitching with the edge of the elastic on the outside. I don't really care about the inside. And the reason is this way, when it's on the outside, it doesn't fray. Now we are going to quarter of elastic. So I have one hand here on the stitch line I've just done. I'm going to put a pin here, quarter. So we're going to start by finding half by pulling here, match your 2 clips to find the quarter here. And still match the same 2 clips to find the other quarter. So now your elastic is divided in 4. So we're then going to do the same on the underwear. So I'm going to mark the quarters. Be careful because it might not be right at the side seam. The quarter might be somewhere else. So make sure you feel the right place and not just go at the side seam. So those are my quarters. And then we're going to match the elastic with the quarters we've just marked here. So the way we're going to attach it is to put the back of the elastic against a fabric. And this is the first stitch line we'll do. And if you see, that means that after we'll fold it and it will look like this. But we're first going to do the back. So really aligning the crease with the edge of the fabric like so. So this is how I attach it. Now, real talk, what is the most important when you do this is to maintain a very even tension between each quarter. So if this is the first time for you, it might be easier to add also an extra clip in the middle and to make 8 clips instead of 4. This way, the distance you have to organize your tension between the 2 clips is a bit shorter and so easier to keep steady. It Is a question of practice. Your first pair of underwear might not be the neatest. The thing is, you want to keep the tension even. Don't go pull and then relax and then pull. You try to pull always the same. So if we look here at my machine and I was to start, what I would do is pull holding the next clip and then go like this, and I have everything lined up until the next clip, and this way I know that this is the right tension. So don't hesitate to put more clips if you need. To be fully honest, for me at the moment, like because I have done so many pairs of underwear, I generally work with 2 clips, and when I'm really wild, I work with no clips. So this is really something you get more and more used to. I think that 4 clips is a good middle ground. 8, you'll be definitely very safe. And don't worry if your tension is not perfect the first time. This is just a pair of underwear, so it's not the end of the world, and it is really good practice to practice on your undies. If one day you want to do swimwear or something where you want it to look nice because more people are going to see it. I mean, I guess normally more people will see your swimwear than your underwear. I mean, it depends. I'm not judging. Then this is good practice for similar elastic applications. Now, let me take you closer and we're going to sew this. So again, I am at 2.5, 2.5, zigzag. I will not backstitch at the start because I will come back onto my seam afterwards. So I pull until the next clip. I go slow and steady. We backstitch. So what we have at this point looks like this. And if you look on the outside, you see that it's kind of just a random sewing line here. If you look here, I see that I'm aiming to be roughly in the middle. You see my stitch line roughly in the middle of the fold over elastic. Now you're going to turn to the right side. You're going to fold where your elastic naturally folds over. When you sew, you can still lightly stretch it, like don't overdo it. Stretch it just very lightly, you know, so it looks like this. And I like to sew, I think it's best quite near the edge. I do not like when this flaps at all. So again, I start without backstitching. Very light tension, slow and steady. Backstitch. That's it. So what we have on the back is this double line of stitching, and what we have on the front. Isn't it beautiful and neat? Yes, so cute. My friend, you just repeat the same for the 2 leg opening elastics, quarter everything, put your fold over elastic in 2 goes, and you're finished. And that's it. You finished your beautiful pair of knickers. I hope you are happy with it. Now I'm going to show you how to use Picot elastic if you prefer using that. Welcome to the Picot explanation of this video. I do not have Picot elastic, but I will show it using this fold over elastic as Picot. So what you do have with Picot, which you don't really have here, is a plushy side that is comfortable against the skin. So here I don't have it to show you, but you're going to imagine that this is your plushy side. Here is your little Picot decoration. So you are going to align the right side of your Picot against the right side of your fabric, and you're going to stitch in the middle of your Picot elastic here. If with the fold over the first pass doesn't influence too much the final look, here it really does, so try to be fairly consistent in your distance from either side. Afterwards, what you're going to do is fold over your Picot like this, and now you're going to stitch along the edge of your Picot line here. And so with the Picot, this is what it looks on the wrong side with the plushy elastic that's comfortable against your skin, and this is what it looks like on the right side. And if you don't have your own sewing pattern, this is the moment we're drafting one together. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how to create your own pattern if you do not have a pattern for your pair of knickers, but you do have a favorite pair of underwear. So how we are going to do this, we're going to start by marking where our fold line is going to be for our pattern piece. And we are going to fold our underwear so that they are folded in two. So I will start with the front, so I will create the fold line of the front. I will align my underwear as far as it goes. At some point you will see that it just kind of pulls. Yes, it's not properly aligned, here we are. And I will trace first the top, knowing that the top is well aligned. I hold the side here, I flip over, I can trace my side seam. Here again, check I'm well aligned. Okay, I see that here it starts to pull, so I can't trace that. So now I'm going to flip it and I'm going to align the bottom. And I'm going to keep tracing this part here, seam lines here. So this is the shape I've got. As you can see, it maybe needs to be neatened a little bit, but honestly, this is going to give me a perfect working pattern. I don't forget to add my seam allowance. Obviously, you can see my line here is quite jagged, but I correct this while putting the seam allowance. I can see that it was going here. Especially if you are doing this with your favorite underwear that are 15-year-olds. They might have distorted with time, so do not hesitate to straighten the lines when you retrace your pattern piece. There you are. So I have the two seam allowance that I need here, one at the bottom, one on the side. Here you don't need any seam allowance if you do the fold over elastic, because as you see, we are keeping the edge. However, if you do Picot, you do want to add a little bit of seam allowance because the Picot does take away a little bit of fabric. At the same time, I find that on a pair of underwear, it's generally minimal enough that it doesn't really matter. Now we do the back. I trace my fold line. I fold my underwear in two. I align it with the fold line. Is it going to be tall enough this way around? Oh, maybe not. I flip to have the seam line. I draw the top. So because it can't go past this line here, I now align the bottom. I didn't do this very neatly. I now align the bottom. I flip for where my seam line is. Okay, I didn't do this one very neatly. You might need to do it a touch neater. I add my seam allowance here and here. So seam allowance is obviously sewist choice. You could also copy your underwear, not half like I'm doing, but full. But if you do it full, please fold your pattern piece in two and check that you have actually done it symmetrically before cutting anything. Especially if you're copying from a very old pair of underwear, it might be distorted and actually not symmetrical anymore. Now, if you want to change the style line, you can always add more coverage, like so. Or you can always remove coverage, like so. If you don't have a pattern and you don't know exactly how much elastic you need, I would suggest okay, this is not going to work because this is over shorts, but I would suggest just trying on the elastic, seeing what feels, you know, with a little bit of tension, but not too much, and see what you like. I also find it particularly important for the leg opening elastic to try it in your underwear and not with shorts on like I am now. It also depends on how stiff your elastic is. This one is really soft. So try on the elastic to see what you like and how you feel a little bit of tension, but not too constricted either. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting and that you learned something with me today. I have a whole bunch of playlists in the description of this video if you tend to be interested in lingerie, in scrap projects, in tutorials in general. Like, you can go and check the playlist to see if there are other videos of mine that could be interesting for you. If you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to tip me a coffee. The link is in the description down below. If you haven't yet, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget that you can make anything. Bye!